the Massachusetts Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing.
Celebrating Disability Pride Month.
Greetings and welcome. Welcome to the month of July. This happens to be the first ever coffee chat here at MCDHH. My name is Okpeoluwa Sotonwa, and I am the commissioner at MCDHH. I want to recognize the importance of this month, but before I proceed, I want to give a visual description of myself. I am a Black male who is bald. I am wearing a blue suit. The color blue has significance to Disability Pride Month. I have a white button-down shirt. The color white also has significance to Disability Pride Month. And I have on a gold tie with a matching handkerchief in the top left pocket of my jacket. The Disability Pride Month has 6 significant colors. Red represents physical disabilities. Gold recognizes neurodiversity. White is in honor of invisible disabilities and disabilities that have not yet been diagnosed. Blue is in honor of emotional and psychiatric disabilities, which can include mental health, anxiety, and depression. Green is for sensory disabilities, which can include deafness, blindness, lack of smell or taste, processing disorders, and other sensory disabilities. My recent visual description was inclusive of specific colors to honor those disabilities aforementioned. I am seated here with a wonderful colleague, friend, and who is also an attorney, Alison Fondo. Alison was a former case manager here at MCDHH. She worked with us for a total of 11 years, and then she transitioned over to the Disability Law Center in the year of 2021, and is now on staff with the Disability Law Center, serving as their attorney. To give a visual description of Alison, she is a white woman who has blonde hair, and she is wearing a green blouse, and that color green is in honor of individuals with sensory disabilities, which could also include deafness. Alison, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me here.
A little history about Disability Pride Month. People often wonder, why Disability Pride Month? Disability Pride Month originated right here in good old Massachusetts. Massachusetts has always been a bastion of change, of innovation, and of progression to make things happen. I am proud to also say that Disability Pride Month follows the month of June, which celebrates and recognizes the LGBTQIA community, also known as Pride Month. In Massachusetts, we celebrate our own uniqueness that makes us different from other states. Our celebrations are a big deal for us. I also want to recognize that Massachusetts is the very first state to have our governor be of the LGBTQIA community. And I'm hoping that our next governor perhaps will be of the disability community. We shall see. There are many important events that have happened in direct correlation to Disability Pride Month, and how the many years of struggle and striving has made us a strong force. There are a multitude of court decisions that have been made that were landmark decisions that have had a huge impact on our constituents. Firstly, Netflix versus NAD. That decision was made right here in Massachusetts, where the federal courts granted, recognized, and honored the rights of millions of hard of hearing individuals across the United States and worldwide to provide full access via captioning when watching television programs. Captioning is a powerful tool that has transformed the lives of many individuals whose native language is not English. As for when they're watching television, they have the opportunity to learn English by reading the captioning. A fight for what is perceived to be for one community can change the lives of many others as a cascading effect. Massachusetts is a community that is fertile ground for a myriad of changes to occur. And we're looking forward to seeing what's next right here in Massachusetts. I want to ask Alison, as we are here celebrating Disability Pride Month, can you share a little bit about what this month means to you personally, and how does it align with your work and your advocacy efforts?
Hello, and again, thank you for having me here today. When I think of Disability Pride Month, I think of a few things. I'm deaf myself. I use a cochlear implant. And I am proud and happy to be deaf. I also think about the ADA that was passed in July of 1990. The ADA is the Americans with Disabilities Act. And if that was not passed in 1990, my life would be very different. It was life-changing. I'm old, so when I graduated high school in 1989, the ADA had not been passed or instituted yet. When I was growing up, I wasn't provided ASL interpreters. That wasn't a given. I had to fight for that access. It wasn't a guarantee. Luckily, I was able to press on and persevered in securing ASL interpreters for my high school junior and senior years, despite the ADA having not been passed yet. It's also important to mention my deaf teacher who taught me ASL, which allowed me to learn and use ASL for access with interpreters in those final years of high school. The ADA was passed in 1990, and I was in college. And this change meant that my school, the University of Vermont, was required to provide access, so they agreed to provide me with ASL interpreters for all of my collegiate courses. I was incredibly fortunate to have both interpreters and note takers for my undergraduate classes. After UVM, I went to Northeastern University for law school. Well, I had interpreters and CART for all of my courses. The accommodations I had throughout my undergraduate and graduate career would not have been possible without the ADA or Massachusetts General Law 151B. MGL 151B helps me in my work at the Disability Law Center currently, where I am a staff attorney. Working at an agency where others do not sign, I'm able to get captioning services through CART or ASL interpreters for any meetings that I need. When I have to attend court, I'm given interpreters, CART or any other access I need because of the ADA and Massachusetts General Law 151B. Those are the reasons that I'm excited about Disability Pride Month and the passing of the ADA in 1990. It was formative to my life.
Thank you for sharing that. From my perspective, as a person who moved here from Nigeria, There were no laws while I attended law school for 5 years in Nigeria. There were no laws in place that required interpreting services. I relied on friends to be note takers for me. I see that your life has ways of flourishing here in America. And it also brought me to the realization of what we have here in America that many other countries do not have. The ADA truly is a gold standard for everyone across the globe. It doesn't mean that it's perfect, but there is power behind the ADA for the disability community. There are a number of accomplishments and goals attained that are simply immeasurable.
I do want to share that in my work at the DLC, I focus on providing civil legal aid for victims of crime who have a disability. We provide civil legal aid and legal assistance. And if you'd like more information about this program, it's called CLAVC. You can find an informative video on the Disability Law Center's webpage in ASL that explains in detail more about the CVLAC program and how it can be of help. The fact that I could work with the CLAVC program here in Massachusetts in collaboration with Massachusetts Law Reform Institute attorneys successfully to create an accessible video with an ASL interpreter is because of the ADA.
Next question. Alison, as someone who deeply is involved in disability law, what recent changes or developments in disability rights legislation has caught your attention, and how do you foresee these changes impacting the Massachusetts community?
I want to highlight the Health and Human Services Office of Civil Rights, who issued a final rule. This is entitled Discrimination on the Basis of Disability in Health and Human Service Programs or Activities. The intention is to modernize and improve Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, which prohibits discrimination. This final rule includes new regulations for programs receiving federal funding. It states that programs must ensure effective communication. This impacts a myriad of programs, including housing, education, and health services, all which receive federal monies. This is another step to ensuring that individuals' rights are protected.
Thank you for sharing that. The Rehabilitation Act has made it very clear how the federal government can mandate states to comply with the law. If you are federally funded, you have to follow the law and what it stipulates. And if you do not follow the law, those dollars will be rescinded. So again, thank you for sharing that.
Commissioner, from your perspective, what progress have you observed in promoting equity and inclusion for persons with disabilities throughout your career? And what challenges remain to be addressed?
Thank you for that question. Taking a bird's eye perspective on that question, as an individual who grew up in Nigeria, I think of the concept of tabla rasa, which essentially means clean slate. Almost 98% of individuals who live in my home country are Black. And so we don't experience other types of discrimination on the basis of race. But for instance, we do have classism. When I attended law school in Nigeria, I was in law school for 5 years. And not even one day went by while sitting in class did I have someone teach me what it means to be disabled or what rights were entitled with that disability. It wasn't until after I graduated that I started to work with other lawyers. We came together to delve into how to draft the first ever disability rights law. I was helped by one book that was published first by Gallaudet University and then by NAD Law Center, titled Legal Rights. That book transformed my life. I then moved here to the States and I started to understand and see the importance of DEI. My first thought was, we were thinking about DEI before the DEI era began. The UN already had conceived the phenomenon of nothing about us without us. Now, talking about DEI in its original phase, it didn't include people with disabilities. It wasn't until much later when they realized that it's critical that we include the disability community because they are representative of diversity as well. And that's why we now include the A, DEIA. We are now accommodating individuals with disabilities. And as you can see, the 6 different colors of the Disability Pride Month flag equates to diversity, diversity in need. We have this array of diversity at our agency that serves and supports the deaf and hard of hearing community, which is also so diverse. We have individuals who are hard of hearing who use spoken English or use assistant technology or use American Sign Language or cart providers, or they have cochlear implants. We have deaf people who use both sign language and spoken English, and we have people who use only American Sign Language. This is all to say that we want to recognize that there is not a one size fits all approach. We want to recognize the uniqueness of individuals and celebrate it as an asset of each person and what they bring. Here at MCDHH, we want to harness all of the diverse aspects of each person to support the work we do across the Commonwealth. I've had the privilege to have worked with 3 different commissions for the deaf and hard of hearing. I worked in the state of Kentucky, in the state of Missouri, and now here in Massachusetts. And all 3 respective state commissions are quite different. Massachusetts gave me a vibe that we discover what we are to do that is right. And subsequently, we push for it. We fight for it. We protest for it and stand by it until we see it happen. And that is why Massachusetts is a bastion of change, and we are progressive in everything that we do. Speaking to technology, Massachusetts is way ahead of many other states by miles. I repeat, by miles. We have a governor who has a vision and is thoughtful in her plan to make Massachusetts a more inclusive state. First, Governor Healy has signed the Executive Order 614. That is to establish a Digital Accessibility Governance Board. I am fortunate to sit on that board, which is led by Secretary Snyder. Massachusetts also is the first state to hire a Chief IT Accessibility Officer. Her name is Ashley Bloom. Ashley is a person with a disability. And most individuals who serve on that board have a disability themselves, are experts in their field, and they bring a rich and an array of knowledge to the table. In addition, Governor Healy signed Executive Order 615. Executive Order 615 was established in order to require a language access plan. Executive Order 615 requires that all state agencies must have an approved language access plan that's inclusive to ASL users, CART users, foreign language speakers, etc. Governor Healy's goal is to make Massachusetts accessible to everyone. It doesn't matter what language you speak. We, Massachusetts, we are made for you, and we will meet you where you are. EOTTS created a task force to review AI, artificial intelligence, because truly that is the future of technology. The governor has invested millions of dollars to establish a pace where Massachusetts will become the first leading state to fully harness the power of AI to improve operational efficiency on state levels in Massachusetts. I want to mention the DOJ, the Department of Justice. Just 2 months ago, they released their final rule regarding website accessibility. The rule requires that all federal, state, and municipal agencies must make their websites accessible. And that must be done within the next 2 years. That is a big deal, absolutely. And at the same time, we have already started that here in Massachusetts, as we have laid the foundation in place with the Digital Accessibility Governance Board and with the full support from our Governor Healy, as well as Secretary Snyder and Secretary Walsh, whom I report to. And each of them are fantastic people who aim high. They aim high with a goal that our communities deserve the best. And I'm excited to be a part of that progress. Alison, can you share with us insights into how the community can actively participate in advancing disability rights and advocating for change at both local and state levels?
It's vital that everyone remember that the Massachusetts State House legislatures work for the people, for everyone in the Commonwealth. Anyone who's deaf, hard of hearing, blind, or utilizes a wheelchair can ask for a reasonable accommodation for any state business, including a legislative hearing or meeting a legislator. The State House will provide access such as CART, captioning, and assisted listening devices. You can speak up and advocate for the issues you want discussed with access for yourself, and that's important to remember. To make a request, the State House's website has a form to fill out to ask for accommodations for whatever you may need. I also want to encourage those out there, if you experience discrimination due to your disability or need help with issues pertaining to disability rights, please contact the Disability Law Center for assistance. While the Disability Law Center cannot accept all cases, we do provide advice and guidance on how to advocate for yourself, making sure you are heard. The Disability Law Center is a wonderful resource for you. Commissioner, considering the ongoing efforts to promote accessibility and inclusivity, what initiatives or projects is the state currently undertaking to support persons with disabilities?
I want to add to your last comment about the State House. Our agency has a wonderful and an amazing collaboration with the State House and their ADA coordinator. His name is Carl Richardson. For those of you who do not know who Carl Richardson is, he is a staunch advocate for accessibility at our State House. He has partnered with us in many of ways to make things happen. I mention that so that people are aware that we have someone working behind the scenes to make things happen. And at the same time, we want to recognize the unique role that he plays. Now to answer your question. The opportunities here are endless. First, just last year, Governor Healy signed a new executive order to save 5% of state contracts for business owners with disabilities. That is a big deal. And in addition to that, Massachusetts has created a business map that shows we have about 85 businesses owned by individuals with disabilities, with annual revenue of $15.1 million. The governor's decision to reserve that 5% brings that number to a total of $18 million worth of business opportunities for people with disabilities. So if you are out there and live in Massachusetts and you have an entrepreneurial vision, I strongly encourage you. Do it. Start your business. For more information on how to start your business, contact the Operational Services Division, OSD, and that office will assist you and guide you through the process of registering your business. Indeed, a grand opportunity for you to be a part of who makes things happen here in Massachusetts. I want to recognize some of the challenges in Massachusetts. In our recent listening sessions with our community members, we learned that many are struggling to find employment. We want to acknowledge that. I already started having conversations with colleagues at MRC and MCB to see how we can work better together and collaborate to address these issues, which is inclusive of unemployment. Right now, MCDHH has a total of 47 different collaborations with our sister agencies, which is not a lightweight to carry. I want to truly applaud our MCDHH team for the daily commitment and hard work they do. It is very rare to see the caliber of heart, of passion, talent, and institutional knowledge that we have here at MCDHH. What I'll say is this: your opportunities are limitless. And for those who do not reside in the state of Massachusetts, consider relocating here, which is your home. We welcome you. Join us and be a part of the change. Now, Alison, reflecting on your experiences, could you share a memorable moment or a case with disability law that had a significant impact on improving equity and access for individuals with disabilities here in Massachusetts?
When I think of equal access, I think about when I started working as an attorney. I didn't have access to the phone like I do now. Video phones, video relay service, and relay captioning services revolutionized the workplace for deaf and hard of hearing folks. Under Title IV of the ADA as amended, the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, must commit to providing phone relay services in all 50 states, and including Puerto Rico and the U.S. territories. This ensures all phone relay services, captioning services, and video phone services are available. And although all these relay services are available here in the United States, they're not available in Europe and many other countries, so we can't take them for granted. The impact is immense. Being able to call your doctor, the courts, a coworker. I mean, this part of disability law really changed our lives. I also want to include the suicide crisis hotline, 988, which is now accessible via videophone, CapTel, or TTY. That program is for those who are struggling with their mental health. And in years past, they have not had access, but because of the ADA, this program is available for everyone. Lastly, I want to mention that in 2018, text to 911 was deployed across Massachusetts. Before 2018, you had to use your phone to call 911 to reach the police or fire, and this was not accessible for those who couldn't hear. By instating text to 911, it's saving people's lives, which is possible again because of the ADA and impacts everyone's life in Massachusetts.
Thank you for sharing that. To someone who moved here from another country, there are still no VRS services in Nigeria. There are no technological requirements for provision of access. I am very fortunate to live here in a country that provides me with that opportunity, and I'm hoping that such support are available to others.
Commissioner, what role do you see technology playing in enhancing accessibility and removing barriers for persons with disabilities? And what steps is the state taking to leverage technology for this purpose?
Governor Healy has the vision to expand the full spectrum of technology access for individuals with disabilities in the state of Massachusetts. That is why Executive Order 614 was signed, which again is a big deal and truly a game changer. Right now, I'm starting to see improvements and benefits of it here in Massachusetts. Many state agencies have been involved in proof of concept for AI, artificial intelligence. And not only that, but Governor Healy is bringing the right people to the table when key decisions are needed to be made. All agencies have an organized methodology when purchasing new technologies, which must include people with disabilities at the table to ensure that their needs are well represented. This is truly in the spirit of nothing about us without us, and it is in operation here in Massachusetts. EOHHS works closely with members from our MCDHH team who are deaf and hard of hearing to meet monthly on how we can optimally harness the full spectrum of technology accessibility to improve the lives of our community members. Not only that, as I mentioned recently, the backbone for DOJ's final rule was laid by many Massachusetts efforts. The requirement that all federal, state, and municipal agencies work towards ensuring that their websites are fully accessible in the next 2 years is alive and well here in Massachusetts, and we are serious about it. We are aware of the shortage of interpreters and CART providers, and the future relies on technology. But it requires striking a balance to make sure that our current workforce jobs are well safeguarded, and we want to make sure of the ethical considerations and protection for people with disabilities in general. One cannot release AI without any ethical guidance or policies. And I know that it's currently being worked on right now. So I want to truly thank our governor for her guidance, vision, and leadership here in Massachusetts. Massachusetts is the state of many firsts, and it's also the state of what is next. So, what is next? It's top secret. So, I'm going to hold off on sharing that for now. The next question is for the both of us, Alison. Recognizing that progress has been made, but acknowledging at the same time that there is still work that needs to be done. How can we ensure that Disability Pride Month serves as a platform for ongoing dialogue, action, and reflection rather than just a celebration?
When I think of Disability Pride Month, I think about how necessary it is to have pride in who you are as an individual with a disability. You have to continuously advocate and educate agencies, coworkers, hospital systems, police departments, courts, and so much more about the purpose of communication access. Every individual has different needs, and we need to continue to advocate and educate about best practices to guarantee effective communication access to deaf, hard of hearing, late deafened, deaf-blind, and the Deaf Plus community members.
Thank you. I would like to piggyback on that. It reminds me of nothing about us without us. There is a demand for representation at the table so that it can indeed become about us. Not only that, here at MCDHH, we are very hard at work to address the dire need to increase the pool of interpreters. This shortage of interpreters is not just an issue here in Massachusetts, but is a crisis nationwide. It has worsened because of COVID, where a lot of interpreters are working remotely and are granted opportunities to work nationwide and not just in their state of residency. And that is a fast growing trend. Here at MCDHH, through our Workforce Development Program, we are working very hard to expand the pool of communication access providers. Not just the pool in terms of numbers, but making sure that there is a diverse pool so that deaf and hard of hearing individuals have communication access providers that look like them, understands their culture, and is representative of who they are.
Commissioner, looking ahead, what are your hopes and aspirations for the future of disability rights and inclusion here in Massachusetts? And how do you envision our collective efforts shaping this future? What do you hope to see happen?
First, change happens in incremental steps, especially when it involves the state government. Sometimes it's called baby steps. And sometimes it may seem that change is slow, but it's not slow. Everything is tied to the government and its deliberate and intentional processes. All that is done must be backed by policy, data analysis, competency, and capability. If one of those steps are not all in place, it is a red light. Taking a mindful journey back 34 years ago, in comparison to where we are today, I tell you, there are so many things for us to be grateful for. Perhaps my thoughts are such because I come from a country that has nothing. I am sure many of our acquaintances have visited a number of countries and they have the exact realization of myself. There is an abundance of blessings here in America. But please do not misunderstand me. I'm not making excuses. There is still more to do and there is still more to be done. The ADA itself is not the ceiling, it is just simply the floor. And so we have more work to do in these areas. For instance, employment opportunities for individuals with disabilities in the area of housing. And that is a big crisis in terms of housing. And I'm thrilled that Governor Healy is addressing this matter head on. Just last week, the House here in Massachusetts voted on and passed the Housing Bond Bill to fund affordable housing. It's not just housing, but we want to make sure that it's affordable to individuals in order to attract talent here to this state. We often interview talent, and when they learn the cost of living here in this state, they decline the opportunity. But with this new housing bond bill, the state is fertile for change. So I want to thank the governor again for her incredible leadership. Alison, thank you. Thank you for your time to be a part of this first ever coffee chat. My goal, if time permits, is to have more of these and to share with the community about the amazing things we are doing here at MCDHH, other places, and including other opportunities that our community should be aware of.
Thank you so much.
So what do we want to share with everyone? Happy Disability Pride Month.
Resources mentioned in this coffee chat. For more information about the Disability Law Center, visit their website at www.dlc-ma.org. The book titled Legal Rights, 6th edition, The Guide for Deaf and Hard of Hearing People, is by the National Association for the Deaf, NAD. For more information about the executive orders discussed in this vlog, visit mass.gov/Massachusetts-executive-orders. For more information about the ADA, visit www.ada.gov. The Operational Services Division, OSD, can assist entrepreneurs and small business owners. Visit their website at mass.gov/OSD. Credits. Featuring Opealua Sotonwa, Commissioner of MCDHH. Alison Fondo, Staff Attorney at the Disability Law Center. Interpreters, Letitia Bino and Sana DeManin. Production Team, Stacy Cohen, Heather Daly, Rex Macapinlack, and John Odell. Special thanks to Alison Fondo and the Disability Law Center.
Follow us on social media. Scan the QR code below or visit linktree.com/MASS, capital C, capital D, capital H, capital H.